Hi everyone, my name is Angel and today I'm hoping to make a quick breakfast wrap for my husband and I, and thank you for joining along. Now, as with every piece of informational content that I produce, I want to remind you that none of the information I share is meant to replace the professional advice of a medical care provider. If you are dealing with any health issues, please speak with your usual healthcare provider. Today we're talking about general information for educational and a little bit of entertainment purposes if you find me entertaining. All right, we're about to make a whole wheat breakfast wrap. That's just something that my husband and I really enjoy. I don't really have a recipe, but if you like it enough, you could follow along and make your own notes. It's simple and straightforward, but it really works well for us. So here I have whole wheat tortillas. The reason why I choose whole wheat instead of white is probably no surprise to you. It has more fiber. Later on, even though I'm making a breakfast wrap for my husband and I who are adults, I'll teach you how to modify that into something that maybe if you have a child who's just about to start solids around 6 months or maybe a little bit older, how you would fix that up. So I will show you step by step. I'm just gonna put these aside and I'm gonna get my pan ready. I'm just going to turn the heat to medium. For the pan that I'm using, I do need to add a little bit of a cooking spurt. I'm choosing to use canola oil. I would recommend that you stick with a vegetable oil that's liquid at room temperature because that is lower in saturated fat and better for our heart health. I'll just show you that in terms of eggs, it's up to you to buy whatever kind of eggs. One egg has roughly about 6 grams of protein, and so if that's something you're trying to increase, especially into your breakfast, eggs are a budget-friendly, quick and easy way to kind of do that. Please also know that eggs are one of the top common allergenic foods, and so if your child or your baby who's starting solids has not yet tried eggs before, then you do want to give this as a singular, well-cooked item before you offer it as a mixed food with the wheat wrap, which is also another allergen. I realize that when I'm making any particular food item, I don't know your specific situation or context, and that's exactly why the information is general. I'll give you as many tips to modify it for your situation, but again, it's just general educational content. Okay, so I realize everybody probably likes to have their eggs a little differently. For us, for convenience, we just kind of like to switch the yolk like that, for convenience, kind of scramble. I find that by folding the eggs from the outside in and scraping the pan quite frequently, it adds a little bit more air into the egg. If I remembered, I could have added maybe just a tablespoon or a little bit of milk just to add to the fluffiness. Now, in general, we don't love having things that are too salty. That's why I didn't add a sprinkle of salt like some people might enjoy. You can totally do that. So I like to make sure that the eggs are just still a little bit moist when I take it off the pan because the residual heat will finish the cooking and prevent super dry eggs. I've already turned off the heat. I'm just going to let it be in the pan while I come back over here. So maybe I'll just plate one and then I can modify the other to show you. All right, so over here, before I start assembling, because really a breakfast wrap is just all assembling, I'm going to bring over to you and introduce some of the ingredients. And I've got a little bit of cheese, turkey, spinach, and I'm also going to pull over a bell pepper. And I'll tell you why. So the reason why I wanted to show you some of the packaging of the ingredients is because there may be some things that are pertinent for you too that you might benefit from. So firstly, when you shop for cheese, one of the ways to make sure you're making a healthy choice, especially if you consume a lot of cheese, is to look at the packaging. It's generally in the bottom corner. You want to look for something that says the percentage MF. It stands for milk fat. And so from a heart health standpoint, you're trying to look for a cheese that has less than 20% milk fat. You'll notice that, oh, Well, yours is 22%. I couldn't find a shredded cheese at the market that was less than 20 on this particular run. So c'est la vie, it's at least a lot lower than other cheese blends that I found that were in 35, 38, even 40% milk fat. Because if you think about comparing this against another dairy product like milk, you may be buying skim 1 or 2%, or whole milk would be 3.25. But in this case, for cheese, the lowest one I could find was 22%. That's a lot higher. So perhaps it wouldn't matter so much if you only ate cheese sparingly, but if you do eat a lot of cheese, like our family does enjoy it a lot, and especially my kids do, then you want to be more careful and maybe pick one that's lower in milk fat, so your saturated fat content is a little bit lower. If you're curious about the difference, here at the back where the nutrition facts are, you can see that in a quarter cup of this cheese, there's 4.5 grams of saturated fat. To give perspective for the moms or people out there watching who are living with high cholesterol, you want to keep your saturated fat intake below 16 grams a day. So by having a quarter cup of this in our breakfast wrap today, if I choose to put that much, it's already about 25% of my daily intake of saturated fat. Perhaps it might not be a huge deal if you are a former vegetarian that incorporates cheese but doesn't have a lot of saturated fat from other animal sources, or perhaps you don't eat a lot of processed foods and we don't have to worry. But at the end of the day, know your budget and play within it. So as we're going to move along, I'll just assemble so that you can see the wrap coming together. So my husband really likes cheese. There's almost never been a time where I've added enough cheese where he doesn't feel this really strong need to go into the fridge and grab more and then microwave it. So I am gonna add a quarter cup of this cheese for him. And I'm choosing to put it on the bottom. By putting it on the bottom because I know my eggs have been sitting, because we're here chatting. I don't know how long it's gonna take me to assemble this wrap, and I don't want it to get too soggy. So the cheese is acting as a blanket over the wrap. And I'll make mine a little bit later so I can show you the modification for children. All right, so you can see that it's coming together. I really recommend people buy pre-washed, what we call value-added produce, because if you are busy, and even if you're not, and you're just got a lot of life going on, that pre-wash saves you from needing to wash, rinse, pat dry before you put into a wrap that you don't want to be soggy, right? So why am I putting spinach in? Oh, actually, first thing, I did want to show you, like many people don't know that a serving, lots of people will say things like, oh, I know I should be eating a lot of veggies, but I don't really know how much. They'll just blanket statement say, oh, I know I should be eating more. I know I should be eating more. Well, in general, if you aim for about 2 servings for each of your main meals and then try to incorporate it into your snack, that's already great. This is 1 cup. That's a 1 cup measure. And for leafy greens, where honestly it's like a lot of air, you don't have to stuff it in. But if you even loosely measure 1 cup, that's already 1 serving. And if I pour that into this wrap here, look, like maybe that's your comfort zone. Maybe that already looks like a lot, but I know the warmth of the eggs is gonna wilt that spinach down, and as I roll it up, it's gonna get all cramped together, and it's not gonna feel like a lot at all. But why did I choose spinach? Well, spinach actually has an antioxidant kind of polyphenol property that has the effect of cancer blocking compounds, and so it's really nice to be able to add that to inhibit the action of some cancer-causing compounds. And in terms of red is rich in lycopene, and lycopene is one of those compounds that almost acts as a scavenger that goes and looks for free radicals which could damage our body. By adding these 2 colors in, I'm adding a lot of health promoting properties that's really wonderful. Now, you may not be someone living with cancer, but maybe you're health conscious and just want to eat more whole foods. One tangible approach to do that is simply to aim to have 2 colors at every meal. And by doing that, it's just a really quick check that you can visually do. Okay, so you saw me cut the bell pepper, and now I'm just gonna use another measuring cup to show you if it was a vegetable like this, it's not a leafy green and it's not loose packed. 1 serving is half a cup. So that was about maybe a quarter of my red bell pepper. And so here, look, that's half a cup. And I'm just gonna put that into the wrap as well. So quickly, our wrap, because I did 4 eggs, 2 in each. So right now, this breakfast wrap has about 12 grams of protein from the eggs. It's got additional protein from the wheat wrap itself. This 1/4 cup of cheese is providing another 8 grams. So this is like a 20 gram plus protein wrap without needing any supplements or things like that. And I've got tons of antioxidants and polyphenols, phytonutrients in here, and I'm ready to wrap it up. Now, some of you out there might be thinking, but what about the flavor? You said there was going to be meat. Well, I wanted that to be an option. Like, I have some turkey here, and I could bump this up, and this could be extra protein as well as extra salt. Even though I think it's salty enough because of all that cheese, but maybe my husband is feeling a little extra hungry, so maybe instead of cutting it, I'll just put it on top. Like that. Okay. So I'm pretty good here. Now, if you wanted to put some mayonnaise or do some hot sauce or whatever, it's up to you. But because we're still filming and I'm not sure when he's actually going to put this in his mouth, I'm afraid it's going to go soggy. So instead, I'm just going to wrap it up. I'll do it here. This is a very, very generous, loaded wrap. And if it's a little too full, he'll probably laugh and say, next time buy a larger wrap, but we'll see. I like to just leave it open on one end because it makes my life easier. Okay, I'm just gonna roll and tuck and bring it in. Okay, see, it's kind of, it got soggy even with the cheese as a blanket, so it's kind of coming apart here. But yeah, this is a delicious homemade breakfast wrap. We were on the go. Maybe we gotta catch a morning ferry or do a road trip and leave super early. I'd probably actually roll this and then wrap it in saran wrap so we can really literally grab it and go. So that's his wrap right there, all completed, and maybe I'll serve a cup of tea or something on the side, but that's nice and easy. Now, what if I was serving this to an older child? I guess an older child might be like a toddler, and maybe like that's just way too much for them. You may actually want to serve all of the ingredients separately and make it like a breakfast bar, almost like taco night. Because for children, it's really important that we give them an opportunity to choose from what we provide. From Alan Satter's Division of Responsibility perspective, we as parents, when we're serving the food, so when is breakfast, when is lunch, when is dinner, and then as well as where. If we say that dinner's at the dining table, it's not at the living room with the TV, that's the second thing that we'll control. And then the third thing is, what are we offering? So I'm not asking them, what should mama make for breakfast? I'm choosing to make breakfast wraps, but I may lay it out as separate ingredients. Like I might put the cheese into a little bowl so that they can decide what they're putting into their wrap, because their responsibility as children is to decide if they're going to eat at all and how much they're going to eat. You may find that doing something like this will be helpful. So instead of putting it all together, if the children are old enough, like mine are 6 and 8 now, you may even be able to get kid-sized knives or child-friendly options, such as this one if you're curious. Like there's like children's cutting knife options that you can get them involved with helping you. At each different stage, you can set them up to stand next to you. The more they participate in the food prep, they may decide that they're more curious about trying what you're about to give them. Okay, so you get the idea. I might portion out the eggs and serve it there. I might put the cheese like that. And then it's really important, I think, as parents to remember that you're not out there to bribe or coerce, and we need to just bring back some joy in the dining table by not giving any pressure. So you get the idea. I would do that with all the ingredients that you want them to have, and that way they can assemble, right? But what if your child is even younger? So what if you have a baby that is 6 to 12 months, maybe you've already started solids, and I'm going to make the assumption that you started solids and that you've tested all the common food allergens and that you're not worried about any food allergies. So your child can consume it all. Even still, how would you prepare it so it's safe for them? Well, 6 months old. Whole wheat tortillas like this can be a little gummy, so even though it's appropriate for you to give them small amounts of this that they can handle, maybe I would just cut this into strips. The concept is that the younger the child, it might seem a little counterintuitive, but the younger the child, the bigger you actually need to make certain strips. So like imagine that your 6-7 month old is just not quite developing the pincer grasps yet, because they probably won't develop that until they're maybe 8 to 9 months old. They really are just grabbing things like this. If that's the case, you're cutting things that are about an adult 2 fingers wide, that their little baby hands can grab it and still have a bit sticking out to bring to their mouth. They're not quite chewing because they don't have teeth, they're more like gumming it. This can be quite gummy. So if you feel that for your baby it's not really working out, you're worried about the gumminess and leading to choking, then maybe you're better off doing a whole wheat toast instead and lightly toasting it, because drying out the bread will make it less gummy and decrease that issue. Okay, so you can totally switch just for baby to do that. But the other ingredients, how would you modify it? Well, children that are only 6 to 12 months old cannot have raw vegetables. So this is a no-no. But what you can do is heat it, pan fry it, cook it until it's totally soft, and then you can use the knife, like pretending this is all cooked through and soft. Then you can just mince it. If it's so soft that you can use a fork to mash it, then it would be cooked mashed veggies that you would offer. That's how you could do it. In terms of leafy greens, again, it's a raw vegetable, so you can't just offer that to baby. You would cook it down and saute nice and cooked, but not overcooked, so still vibrant green. Then you can just mash it up, puree it, or keep it a lumpy texture, like wherever your baby is at, and do that. Little strips of grated cheese. It's actually pretty hard for a baby who hasn't mastered the pincer grasps yet, because you can just imagine, like, how are they supposed to grab something like that? But once they are about 8 to 9 months or have the ability developed, you can honestly, on their little baby tray, just scatter a little bit of this. And then baby will just kind of like learn how to grab these little pieces of cheese and bring it to their mouth. Unlike adults, babies do not need to watch their saturated fat content. In fact, it's better to give whole milk and varieties or whole dairy food options to babies, as they need all those additional nutrients, calories from fat to help them grow, because they're growing so much. We do not need to watch that fat intake. In terms of the meat, once they develop that pincer grasp, you're going to be able to do this. This is thinly sliced turkey. I would not recommend giving babies highly processed ham or pepperoni or bologna, those kind of options, but this is just thinly sliced roasted turkey. If they're old enough and have the developmental ability to grab, you can cut them up into smaller pieces, just like the grated cheese, because it's a fully cooked meat and you don't have to worry about it being undercooked and causing foodborne illness. You can put most of this aside and scatter a little bit so that they can decide if they're going to pinch it up, bring it to their mouth, and try to enjoy that. The less you give them, the better, because they may decide to just have a little bit and stop. I recommend that you sit beside and enjoy the meal with them so you can watch carefully to see if they are gagging, if they're having any issues, reactions to the food, and also providing the social aspect of eating. So that's how you would modify that. Now, in your family, whether you're enjoying this as just adults or with kids who you're going to assemble the ingredients together, and maybe baby sitting at the table with you, which I highly recommend that you make a seat at the table for baby. You're assessing baby's ability and giving the baby opportunities to enjoy what you guys are having, but in modified, safe formats, like by sauteing the veg and making it texture appropriate. It's one meal that feeds everyone. So I hope that's helpful to you. Now, one last thing is, if you so wanted to even jazz this up a little bit more, you can serve some salsa on the side. Believe it or not, depending on the kind that you're buying, salsa can actually be an interesting way for you to incorporate and encourage kids to have more vegetables, because ingredients should pretty much be water, tomatoes, and onions. It does actually have different vegetables in here just to expose your child to more flavors. Now, obviously, you got to watch the spice level. So my kids are old enough to tolerate mild. You probably don't want to serve this to a baby until your baby's eating more table food and has tested potential allergens in here. They've tested it. It's not really the best choice to give a baby 6 to 12 months. Now, the other thing I would probably serve with this is, instead of sour cream, which people think of when they're making a Mexican-inspired burrito, I would suggest that you use Greek yogurt or Icelandic skyr plain yogurt, because that will give you more protein and more calcium than simply sour cream. And that's another way to increase the nutrient density of your meal, no matter who's in your family enjoying it with you. All right. I hope you enjoy breakfast. I'm going to go enjoy mine, and I'll see you next time.